across the country. We have nonprofits put together economic development.
Well, as I said, you're kind to say so, and you know, the amount of things that you've done are incredible as well, and you know, what we look at is your continued focus on the neighborhoods that you grew up in, which is why I see the CDC that I founded in Henderson and was CEO and president of for 5 years. I'm now chair of the board some 30 years later. And you know, you got to take care of home,
right?
Even while you do everything else. Now, outdoors is always open. Come do some of that stuff you do in Pittsburgh and Birmingham. Come do that here.
Who was that dude?
Abdul Rashid, who was really the person that was the Pied Piper for CDCs across our state. And he, you know, helped us form a bunch of statewide entities, including one that he, you know, came to be his baby and that he ran, which was the North Carolina Community Development Initiative. But you know, when James was head of the Association of CDCs, it was really James, me, Andrea Harris, who helped form the North Carolina Institute of Minority Economic Development. Abdul, people from the Credit Union Support Center, some of the folks from legal services like Super. You know, that was the intelligentsia that put together a statewide economic development plank, and we were able to get Toby Fitch and Dan Blue when Toby was majority and Dan Blue was speaker. We were able to get them to put together the first minority economic development initiative for the state. And I think we were, if I remember correctly, I think it was 20-some years of that funding before the Republicans came in and said, we don't need to support nothing black.
That's right. That's right.
Literally, that's the history.
How we get back to that, and how we get around the Republicans to get back to the 20 million?
Well, you know, in the first place, obviously, when you're talking from a nonprofit center, you don't want to be partisan. And so the way we talk about it is who is progressive for our community and who is not. And the way we get back to progressive legislators is very simple. Once again, not something you can publicly talk about. But right now, your progressive legislative balance has to be all the Democrats and what Republicans want their future not to be cut off at the kneecaps. Because the reality is the numbers for Republicans in all of these states 10 years from now will not be there. And it doesn't matter how, shall we say, creative they are in extending their rule.
Yeah, that's got to do with the index, the birth index, and everything else.
They are about to lose power because they simply won't have the numbers. This is something James and I were talking about earlier. The Federal Reserve has proven that 100% of new household growth is people of color. They're dying off as they birth, same equal. So there's no new household growth that is majority American. And the new household growth is minority American, which will be then majority American. So when you look at that, the corporations of the world are starting to say, okay, DEI for us doesn't have anything to do with government. It's about who our staff and who our customer base is in the future. And they're realizing that, you know, they're not looking just 10 years from now, they're looking 30 and 40 years from now, when the average American worker will be a person of color.
Okay, pause before we get good. I want to ask you about 3 questions. If I didn't know you and I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine, what would you want me to say?
Well, it's very, very easy. It's the same thing I used to tell my kids to tell folks in class when they had to go through show and tell and they wanted to know, well, what does your father do? And I told them, I said, what I try to do is to bring capital, resources, and capacity to underserved neighborhoods in such a way that successful development breeds self-sufficiency.
The 3 C's. My last name is Carter, so you know I caught that. If I was to interview you to an audience of people, 200 or 300 people, what would you like me to say?
I'd like for you to say that Irvin Henderson has had a unique life in which he has been able to walk with kings and paupers and understand how to develop community in America.
So, what inspired you to do what you're doing currently?
Very easy again. No, seriously. I grew up in the 50s, and on my street, and you remember this, on my street, on one end, we
You
had...
give the city a shout out, man. You can't just say that, well, you grew up, you ain't giving a shout out to the city.
Well, I grew up in Henderson, North Carolina.
Okay.
And in Henderson, on my street, Pearl Street,
Okay.
you had the head of the Black Hospital, you had a principal for the schools, you had the Farm Bureau agent, and then you also had the principal for the prep Black high school that became a public school, and then you had my house, and then right beside my house, you had Miss Fanny's, which was the local liquor house. And so consequently, like we always talk about, in the 50s, we all lived together.
Okay.
And you had those that would be considered on the other side of the tracks, but we were all on this side of the tracks. And with my folks, I was raised by my godparents, Walter Shields and Martha Shields. And what they told me is, now you pay attention to those folks that come out of Miss Fanny's, because you can learn something even from a wino. And way before Richard Pryor started doing winos and junkies, I understood that every person I met had value and should be treated with respect, and you should listen to them because you can learn something. So I saw, quote unquote, the cream of black middle class capacity right there on my street, and I saw those who had street capacity, and I learned from them both. And the culmination is someone who can walk with both princes and paupers.
Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Absolutely, I've been an entrepreneur since, I've been a CEO since I was 24. I don't think I play well with others. I don't think I could work for anybody.
So you haven't filled a resume out in a long time?
No. Projects find me, I don't find projects.
Oh, okay. And tell me a little bit about the current venture or business that you're working in right now. And don't try to say, oh, I'm semi-retired, because everybody, that's a lie.
No, I'm not. I'm working harder than I ever have in my life.
Okay.
I have a development company called Irvin Company, and I have several LLCs around the country. And my business is to develop urban infill. I do a lot of historic preservation. I do a fair amount of rural development as well. And my goal is to serve underserved communities with the capacity that I've learned.
Wow. Okay. What does a day in your life look like?
Okay.
And take me from out the bed to yawning and saying, thank you, God, for this good night's sleep.
Well, it normally starts with both emails and voicemails trying to put out the fires because we have projects in multiple states. Then toward the middle of the day, I'm normally having meetings with people with capital, and I'm trying to convince them to put their capital into projects that I'm doing. By the middle of the day, I'm probably talking to staff about implementing some of the solutions that we developed earlier in the morning. In the afternoons, I try to spend my time doing writing and spreadsheets as we develop the guts of what these projects are going to look like. And then in the early evening, I try to go spend time with my wife.
Okay. Tell me some essential things that any organization should be considering when developing their team. Because you said staff, I just call them team, because I know they may say they work for you, but you may say they work with you. So tell me about how you put your team together and some of the vitals of that.
Well, the most important thing with team building is that you have to have folks that play different roles. You've got to have the optimists that are always dreaming and bringing you good approaches. You have to have the pessimists that say, let's put a budget to it, and can we do this? And then you've got to have the knitters that will knit the two conversations together to the point where you actually have an action item that leads to something that makes money.
Wow. Are all of yours local in Henderson? Or
No, I don't have anybody else in Henderson. They're all remote.
Was that because of COVID that you started doing like Zoom meetings?
No, it's where the projects are. We don't have an active project in Henderson, so there's no need to have staff there. You know, my staff is where we have projects. You're talking Connecticut, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Birmingham, Houston.
what does success look like to you?
Success looks like getting these projects funded and getting them out the pipeline, because they're killing me being stuck in the pipeline.
What's making them stuck, in your opinion?
It's always about raising money and meeting regulatory approval. Those are the two hardest things for any developer: raising the money to see the vision through, and getting the regulators to approve you so that you can actually start the work.
So it was
Now, let me just stop you, because this was, I was just here to meet you.
Okay.
I can't, do a whole bunch of this, because I've got, somewhere I've got to go. I appreciate your desire to have me be a part of a podcast, and I'm glad to do that on a day in which I'm totally prepared. But you caught me on the fly, because all I thought we were doing was just coming to meet you so that you and I could begin to develop a relationship.
And I don't know all these answers, so now you can ask me whatever you want to ask me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
So the first thing I would ask is, how are you and James aligned such that you are helping him with his vision?
I used to live in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I was in Bali for a year and a half, which is 12 hours ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So I was literally in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a large community around me, always have. And when I left, I had took 35 people to Austin, Texas to become trained as integration coaches in plant medicine, because I believe that our community has inner child traumas that talk therapy with white folks is not going to solve. So I've spent thousands in that, and then I've spent thousands in plant medicine, and the results I'm getting is significantly better in plant medicine. But I learned during COVID that black folks learn better and trust other black folks. They don't want to go and let a white man stand over them and be like, "You okay?" They'd rather have somebody that look like us. And so those 35 people, that was like my immediate community, even though I have a much larger community. And when I went to Bali, I joined an organization called Club DAO. DAO is Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And I was the only brother there. And it was 100 of us from around the world, and it was a 30-day incubator. And I said, well, check this out. I'm gonna shadow you, white boy. His name is Will. He was the head guy. I'm gonna shadow you, because this is your first baby. It took you 3 years just to get here. So I'm gonna shadow you. And then I told all of them on the first day we did introductions. I said, 1 year from now, all of y'all's communities will be 5 years ahead. I said, but if I don't go back and take this to my community will be 3 years behind. In 365 days, there's a gap that's about to happen. So that's why I'm here, to be the bridge in that gap. So I'm not here to make no friends. I'm here to learn how y'all are moving around internationally, because they were talking about crypto and blockchains. And I have the most felonies in this building. So I love my people. I'm a former conspiracy theorist and Pan-Africanism and all of those type of things. But what I know about the streets and in business is, unfortunately, sometimes just niggas shit other niggas. They just don't keep, and they don't keep their word. So the white boys have figured it out by putting on the blockchain. Because if you give me a smart contract and you say you're gonna give me 10 chickens and I'm gonna give you $100, and to get here with some 9 chickens, don't even worry about getting 100. You didn't get none of it until that other chicken hit here. And I was just like, wow, a nigga will do right. If you give him a smart contract and explain it to him just like that. Don't try to go, no, I'm gonna get all my money when you give me all the product, no talking. And I was just like, oh, so when I came back to America, which I didn't want to do, I ended up back here in Winston, where I was here 24 years ago, learning martial arts, Tai Chi, meditation, things like that, astrology. And my friend who introduced me to mushrooms is the oldest, he was the first black doctor of Chinese medicine in North Carolina, Dr. Amsu. And so I couldn't find, I was like, since you put me in this thing, I'm gonna take your office and go digital with it. I'm gonna put you, because your office is dinosaur, I'm gonna make your office be where you don't have to stay in Winston-Salem. He's a Pisces, he's gonna be by the water, he was born in North, on the water. So I said, I know how to take your business and make it so you don't have to be here, right? And so I came in with my girlfriend, started working on this stuff, and then I runs into Mr. Grace. Now, I had been trying to talk down to people, and it was going over everybody's head. So I was lonely. So one day, when I seen Mr. Grace, and he was at some event, and he was talking CRA. And the other guy was talking land trust. And so I'm all AI. I have a Russian teacher who went to MIT, came out of Y Combinator, who I'm his brother now. And so I was listening. I took out my phone and said, can this CRA thing and land trust go in a DAO? And then, do this, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I understand this, but can I translate this to him? So I went up to him, introduced myself, and I was just like, can we have a conversation? He came over to the office, and come to find out, he liked AI. Everybody around was just like, AI, He was just like, oh, I got ChatGPT, I got this, I got that. And so I did the same thing I did to you. I hit record, because sometimes the spirit will come down and be challenged, and I don't want to take no time for you to copy it, because I can take the conversation and give it to AI and tell AI to be my co-founder, to be my marketer, to be my pessimist, to be my optimist. I have all of them there for $20 a month. Right. I know you like that, right? Because you got to pay staff, right? And so I told him I don't like old people. So I tell you, I love kids. And so he started talking about what we could do for the kids. So now he can't get rid of it. And then we came up he started talking about cleverness in a very unique way that I had never heard. And music and the kids. And I was already saying, I want to create an incubator, because venture capitalists are looking for startups and incubators, and we have to stop using the word entrepreneur and start using the word founder. Because I've been using the word, but everything changed when I started saying I'm a founder. Because an entrepreneur is on the left side of money, according to Robert Kiyosaki. You know what I'm saying? Trading hours for dollars. The business owner and the investors on the right side of money. The founder is raising millions of dollars. The entrepreneur thing, you got to bootstrap everything. But if you can take entrepreneurial work ethics and put it into founder mentality, which really you just need two people. You got to have a first man, you got to have a tech man. So in 2018, when Bitcoin was at $997, I was in Atlanta and at another spot similar to this, and they just showed me everything. I'm an astrologer by trade, but all the software people were having troubles with their girlfriend. And they was just like, what do I do about this? And so when I would give them some, I would say, well, what do you do? Oh, I do Python. I do this on blockchain. I do such and such. I do cyber defense. It's like this is easy. You got to figure it out. And I was like, what? And so I have all that information inside, and I was just like, I got to get this to my folks. So I was like, the easiest way, since I'm back in Winston, and I ain't really trying to stay here too long, I said, give me 20 kids. I'm going to put them in teams of 4 teams of 5 or 5 teams of 4. We're going to go through a 90-day training in the free library that Y Combinator, Stripe, Reddit, Airbnb, DoorDash, OpenAI, all came out of Y Combinator. Y Combinator's companies well over $600 billion right now. All of their companies. So I was like, these kids just ain't never had access to it. You give them access to sell drugs, they're perfected. You give them access to do hair, they're perfected. You give them put a tennis racket in their hand or a golf club, they're perfected. Well, then somebody gonna have to show them AI. So I'm Earl Woods and Richard Williams with the AI. And so
I see the metaphors and I get the synergistic, and I see what you saw.
But I didn't know he had a nonprofit. I was just helping Dr. So he would come in and get his treatment. Then treatment would be 30 minutes. He come in and talk to me for 3 hours. But I have all those recorded.
Right.
And AI knows his tempo, his voice, our conversations. And so then he said, he called me one day, he said, you want to ride over here to Skyland? I was like, what that? He said, I'm about to buy this school for $1. this is an opportunity. And so in Tai Chi, one of the things is called open to all possibilities. So I said, I'll be there in a few minutes. So we went over to Skyland, he sold me the situation. So then when we came back, next time he came back to the office, I was just like, it's just me and you, Mr. Grace, let's get Skyland, blah, 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 here's the plan, blah, 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 how we gonna pay the rent, we got all that in there. And then he ain't put no smart contract in. And he made the move, and he got some other people involved, and they weren't really upright guys or girls in the situation. And then he fell off his roof because he hard-headed. And I told him I wanted him to be like the mafia, where he do what he doing right now, and let me come and give an envelope, give you an envelope. Y'all tell me what y'all need to do. Go on, do something else. But he want to fix the roof. So he falls and breaks his hips. And he go to the hospital. I come see him. I say, where your business partners? They ain't came to see me. I said, oh. And he already know I ain't really got too much love for Greensboro and Winston. I got all my felonies in Greensboro, but Winston just slow all the time. Give me a little excitement. And I was like, these niggas ain't gonna come see you in the hospital, and it's your school. You brought him in on the deal. So then that didn't go the way we had planned. So we still got that in the parking lot, all the plans, but we really don't need Skyland. We could put it almost in anything. And so then me and my friend found a $110,000 grant for digital life skills. But you had to be a felon for them to give you the money for like re-entry and stuff. But we couldn't find a nonprofit. So we came to him and said, can we run the grant through your nonprofit? You know what I'm saying? We'll give us a piece, the larger portion, and we'll let you have, a portion. And then he counter offers and says, why don't y'all come on the board? And then y'all can help me with all the money. I said, man, give him another opportunity. I said, all right. So now he got two highly techy AI from the street with felonies who've been to prison board members who watch his six. Like when you flying the plane, right? And so then I ended up here in September with the Hustle Winston-Salem, which is a nonprofit. She had an entrepreneur in residency, and I filled it out in April, but she didn't give it to me in September, and I was working on my book, so I ain't had no project. I just came up here to see what it was like. And I was just like, one day this would be a nice spot, but right now I ain't doing nothing. I'm writing my book. So that was over in December, and then we swing back around in March, and we was like, okay, what are the things we gotta do to get funded? We need a website, we need motion. Because he had good standards, but he didn't have motion. So the address needed to be another address, so when the funders look, so I was like, the best address in Winston-Salem is in Innovation Quarter. And we only paying $350 a month rent, and we have access to all of this. And it's a lot that we have access to. We even have access to the park across the street. It's only $2,500 to get it for a whole day. $1,500 without the grass up in the front. So we doing infrastructure. He wanted his nonprofit to be the infrastructure set up with AI. So that's what we have done. And now he is the only, he's going to have the most advanced, updated nonprofit in the Southeast here in a few more, could be days, but I'll just be kind and say in a few more weeks. He probably is way in front of people right now. But no other nonprofit, because I'm going around asking other people, other CDCs, like, y'all know about this? Y'all messing with Anthropic? Y'all such and such? With that? No, we still paper and penning it. So I like what he's really doing because he wants to, so the girl came in here when I first got here and from Hustle, and she said, what's Mr. Grace doing this? She was trying to be all in his business, right? And I said, hey, you need to ask him some of these questions. I see you, I see the angle you coming from, right? So one question she asked me, I wanted to know the answer to. So I said, hey, Mr. Grace, she asked me, what's the difference between your CDC and a nonprofit and all the other ones? And I thought he was being a smart ass. He said, we'll work with anybody. But that was in a nutshell, but really his dream is to be a nonprofit that can be the central platform for other organizations to come partner with. And that's the ecosystem, that's the DAO. So I've been told he had a DAO, he just didn't know he had it. But what I realized was, with not just black people, but people, because I tried to start one as soon as I got back virtually. And I said the best way to create a DAO is don't tell them you're creating a DAO. Just use the word ecosystem or whatever the term is. But as soon as I bring that some smart contracts in, it's official. So my international network, we have, I call it the mother of DAOs. She's a German that lives in South Africa. She's birthed over 400 DAOs. She knows where the bread is at. And so I was telling him, stop trying to press these white boys here in Forsyth County about some money when you qualify for international bread. Fuck them. I said, when Forsyth County lost $46 million last year in education and nobody went to jail. So that, I'm a historian. My degree at A&T is in professional history. So in 1978, the Ku Klux Klan shot up the Grove and filmed it and put it on WRAL, and nobody still ain't been prosecuted. So now I already know what y'all doing. So why are we even asking them when internationally, you know, and he got some white folks right here that he don't like and that they don't like him. Okay, I do too, maybe some places, but internationally we can make this thing so nasty that money can just pour. So my plan is where they come see him instead of him going to see them, because he gonna have so much motion and his aura's gonna be so big. Joker's gonna be like, so what you got going on, Juni? What you got going on? And then he get to pick and choose and say, maybe, no, da-da-da-da-da. But I'm gonna be his first partner in creating my organization to join NCDC. Because I make things go contagious. That's just a talent that I have. I can't teach it. You know what I'm saying? So when I started selling drugs, too many of my friends wanted to do it. So when I started getting into trading and crypto, my friends wanted to do it. So now I was like, okay, well, y'all watching, I have to be more virtuous. You know what I'm saying? My cousin caught 2 felonies because of me. So I don't want that to happen no more. And I want to make sure the kids, we get, I want really 10% of every new business that comes out of East Winston that we train, we want to get 10% equity to put back into the organization. So you think OpenAI ain't giving a little back to Y Combinator? They all of them giving it back to where they can't. Harvard, they have a war chest. He got dreams, but he ain't got no funding. He ain't got no war chest. He ain't got no team. So if we can make the team and get a war chest, now we can make something happen. And now technology has caught up with the vision. His vision is the same as it was mine too, but neither one of us had the tech. So I keep up with the tech so he don't have to. And then it's how do we get his dream to come true? How do we get my dream to come true? And use synergy so we can prove that black people can work together. Now the ones who can't work together, he know my attitude when you learning. Mother made him, you know, mother F him too. We'll swing back around the next time. So we're looking to get 100 members now that are really quality members. The first wave, I want them to be quality. Somebody who has, yesterday we had a little fine little realtor. She understands affordable housing, but of course she's here to make some money. But her husband is a computer scientist. I said, when she walked out, I said, Mr. Grace, they go our first 2 members. I want both of them. Computer scientist in your nonprofit with a realtor, and then I want a doctor, and then I want a car dealership person. I want somebody in AI. Then we'll swing back around, but then because they would do the chatter to grow, because his community equity fund makes sense. He want 5,000 people, give him $25 a month. So now we got an equity fund. That's more war chest that we can go to any of the banks and do whatever. And then not to mention the 200 million that he wants some truths, which I didn't understand. But most of the time when people throw them kind of numbers around, they either white or they just exaggerating. But when he laid it down to me so I could see it, I don't think you missing is just like the tech and the organization. So I want to see the 200 M's in his pocket to see what he's gonna do. I know what he's gonna do, but I want to see what he's gonna do instead of us just talking about it. So then I asked him what you do, and he was just like, oh, he's a CDC advisor. So my title other than astrology, is I'm a chief strategy officer for hire. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I'm gonna say something that's Sun Tzu. I was recruited by West Point in 11th grade. My principal, I really was getting in trouble after that because his white son was in the same grade and they didn't ask for him. So I went to A&T instead of West Point. But when I got to A&T, I found out this roster who was smoking weed with, he had a book called The Art of War. And he let everybody take a book home with me. I said, I want to take this one home. He said, no, this for me and my son. So I found the book, and I've been studying the Art of War since 1988. And he said every freshman at West Point must take a semester in the Art of War. So when we started the history club, the Black History Club in North Carolina A&T, and we started this thing called Black Wednesdays, where we would come and meet, dressed in black on Wednesdays, meet in the library, everybody go to the Black Studies section, read the book for 30 minutes, and then come in a cipher and talk it out. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna go find the Art of War, and they didn't have it. And
not in that section.
I became, in the whole library.
Well, that's true.
I started
using the Art of War 40 years ago, so, and I was recruited by Phillips Academy Andover when I was 11 years old. So, there's just a whole bunch of synergy between what you're saying and, I understand why you chose the title Chief Strategist. You have a lot to share, and I would love to learn more about some of these platforms that you're talking about that these tech companies came out of, and more of the methodology. And I see room for some great.
You're the one. You have, okay, so I call this Operation Mustache. Let's say we out to dinner. You'll be like, hey man, you got some mustard on your mustache. It's impossible for me to see what's on my mustache. So I'm probably saying something that you see about me I don't see. So everything that you said earlier, you have it. You are an incubator. You, Andrew Horowitz and Paul Graham, and now you, period.
Because like I said, I understand the ethos behind what you're generating, and it's amazing the number of things that you are trying to do that he just reiterated and spilled back out. So I can tell you all have spent hours together. And I'd say, there's a collaboration about to happen that might be a doubt.
But that's memorandum conversation. So that's on the inner memo. I don't say that outside of people who can't handle it. Like yesterday we were talking, I didn't tell them. I said, we got this nonprofit. We're making an ecosystem. But I ain't gonna scare you away. You understand it. So yes, y'all have it. We have all the components. We just have to just weave it together with infrastructure, and then we just picked up a new piece of software that is really crazy and next level. And so I'm integrating with that over the weekend and to really make sure all our I's and all our T's are crossed. I'm partnering with this cat who's been doing nonprofits for like 10 years, and in his group he got 620 people, but he said 49% of them over the last 10 years he's raised $30 million. So that means the 51% of the group is inactive. And he was like, okay, I want $60 million now. And so he was using spreadsheets and something, and he put it all in AI and built this thing just for me. And I just love it. But it's robust, and it's a little overwhelming, it's a lot of buttons. But by Tuesday, I'll be swinging in the backstroking with that bad boy.
Well, I now have, and I appreciate everything you just said. I now have somebody for both of you to meet. A guy named Tim Smith, who does call himself a founder and a CEO, and he runs the Center of Life in Pittsburgh. And what he has is the on-the-ground mechanism for the ecosystem that you all are talking about. And he has already developed the way that you reach out into underserved families through their youth to make the education platform and the health platform work. So it's providential. It's providential.
So in my other pocket, I got something called the Home Healing Alliance. So I definitely, when you say health, because I'm big on the health and wellness. You know what I'm saying?
I heard that. All I'm saying is that there are so many people who are flocking around the stuff that they want to try to do. And you all have developed some targeted synergies and some targeted strategies. He has done the same thing when it comes to implementation with families I'm trying to do the same thing when it comes to capital. You know, he will tell you that, you know, folks talk thousands, I talk trillions and billions. And that's because I've had some interaction with trillions. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, it's a natural relationship that we need to develop.
I want to introduce you to somebody because you just triggered that. His name is Solomon Ali.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a Ring camera? You know, with the Ring doorbells? So the IP, the licensing for that is owned by a black man named Solomon Ali.
Oh, okay.
He lives in Charlotte. So I went out to dinner with him one time, and he, I don't never mind talking about money. I love hearing about it and talking about it. But this night right here, he was so far into the 9 digits. I was just like, I wish he would change the subject. It was so much money talk. But you're the person that I would love to see you and Solomon chopping it up, and me sit back, you know what I'm saying, just recording for my own self, because that's a book. How many of our people need to take that conversation, and now that could be 4 books, $20 a piece. That's funding. That's the quick, because our IP is not just intellectual property, it's indigenous practices. So we've been doing this since the Liquor House. You see what I'm saying? So why not convert it while everybody else is doing their scientific materialism? Let's keep it amongst us while they're not paying us no attention. Because I don't want them to put their eyes on us. Just go ahead, slide us a couple. You know what I'm saying?
Because they'll figure out when to stop.
Right.
Yeah, no, I get it. My son's an author, by the way, in terms of books. My oldest boy is an author. He writes high fantasies.
Oh, well, this is my first one. This is a memoir, self-help, and then I have other joints like that. All of these can be turned into valuable ebooks, because Umar Johnson, I don't like him because he raised $500,000 to buy physical locations for school for kids, but it's only in one place in the United States. Every kid is on their telephone. So why don't you just make an app for the kids? Because they're already on their phone learning what they should be learning. Why don't you put in there what they can be learning about Black history, about math, about such and such? But now they only have to be living in your county and city. Their parents got to move all the way. Because the whole brick and mortar thing is slowly going away as far as education and stuff. Because I also want AI plays, OpenAI, NVIDIA, and Anthropic. So if we can get this relationship with NVIDIA, they have something called Sovereign Tuesdays, where we can take 17 to 19-year-olds and get them certified as AI engineers. You do not need a college education. So that eliminates all debt, potential college debt that Black families have been traditionally taking on for years. Oh, we gotta get you into college. And who signs the cosign for the loan, the Stratford loan to send them? The parents. Then when the kid drops out, who does it go back to? The debt falls back on the parents. But if he came out at 19 and he's already an AI engineer, can start off at $65,000 or $80,000, he don't need to go to college.
Well, that's very relevant to an initiative that I am pushing with this guy in Pittsburgh, because he's got connections with Carnegie Mellon's Robotics Institute, and we're getting robotics certification for these same kids, and then also Microsoft certification, because most of these cats will focus for 9 to 10 months. Okay, if you get them a job at the end of 9 to 10 months, you got them for life.
And I also want to work with. My part of workforce development, which we call workforce opportunity, is cats coming home and transition. Also sober living. I don't do hardcore drugs no more, but I also know it has something to do with inner child healing, and we don't have enough. Already don't have enough Black men elementary school teachers. Then we ain't got enough Black men therapists. So, and we definitely ain't got enough Black men talking about healing other Black men's inner child wounds so we can be better. So when Barack was in office, he tried to put $100 million into this program called LIFE. So it was learning impact for fathers in Richmond, for people coming home from prison. Republicans voted it down, didn't get it, but I seen the program and wrote it down. So
And I've been about that, from the very, very beginning, because, and this is something we used to talk about in NCCED studies. Way too many of our men have been sidelined from their ability to be productive and fruitful in our communities because of their interaction with the justice system. And the key is to figure out, and now white philanthropy has got this, that the way for them to make a difference is to help us repatriate these brothers and sisters with things that they can do that will bring them a living. But I started it, I did talking about the books of oil, I did the Job Creation Center on the island of Hilo, the big island of Hawaii. On the Hilo side, I did a Job Creation Center, and we made sure that we brought in the prisoners, and we did housing. All the roofs that we did were done by guys from prison who were about to transition out. So when they left, they had certification as roofers. And so they had something to build on. But yeah, I've been in that place because what I looked at, and it's a strange origin for this, it was prison movies. When I was looking at prison movies and I went like, man, that's just terrible. But if you go through all of that and you come out a man, what an incredible man you are. Yeah. And so how can we then bring resources to that man who has established his worth by coming out of that? How can we bring resources to them and let them become useful in the communities? And I noticed even as a kid that the majority, I won't say the majority, I'm going to say maybe a third of my friends in elementary schools, folks were in jail. And I noticed that. And they would, be visiting them or talking about how they didn't have a father because, this, that, and the other. And then as I grew up, I started learning, well, that's happening to a disproportionate number of black men. Now, this is before I read Up From Slavery, before I read, any of the, Die Nigga Die, any of the other books that one reads as a coming-of-age African-American. I just said, man, I'm noticing what is happening to my community. And I've been a race guy from the very beginning. Okay, you talk about teachers and mentors. Michael Barbier was my first black literature instructor. When I went to Andover, I was a part of something called A Better Chance. And they have you come to the summer school before you start the regular school. And Mike Barbier was my instructor during the summer school.
How old were you?
I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm right about that. Yeah, I was 14. Anyway, long story short, as he started turning me on to all these books, Justice Denied, and From Plantation to Ghetto, Man-Child, The Promised Land, when I started reading all this stuff, I went like, this is the stuff I've been talking about and thinking about and trying to get more context on. And see, in my home, there were books like Stolen Legacy, several other books that, my sisters who, had, I think one was at Hampton and the other was at Knoxville College. And they had brought home these books and were trying to inform the family. I picked them up and started reading them right away and started really learning, okay, there is that whole side of black life where people are saying the things that I'm saying. And then when I learned about the Harlem Renaissance and everything that was going on with, Likes to Use and the cohort that he formed, I was like, oh, okay, I see the things I need to do. That's when I started the Coalition of Black Students across all the prep schools. And I shouldn't say we started the Coalition of Black Students across all the prep schools so that as we were within the belly of the beast, we could still maintain our Africanness and could learn even more about what that meant as we grew up. Now, some of those folks now, include Sidney Poitier's two daughters and a host of others that you would know. Some of the greatest folk in our history and in current culture that are black came out of that group of people. Bill Lewis, probably the most influential black guy on Wall Street, was one of my guys. We were in the same class. it's amazing.
When you said Bill Lewis, is this Reginald Lewis you talking about?
No, Bill Lewis. No, I know Reggie too. I read his book a long time ago too.
Okay, yeah.
I know Beatrice and the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
But no, Bill, see, what made me pay attention to Bill is that, Bill left Andover and went to Harvard, and then went to Harvard Business School, and then went straight to Wall Street. And, he climbed up so quickly that I paid attention to the fact that that was the root. There was no question that was the root. But what he did with it is he stayed in the belly of the beast. What I would have done is once I learned how to tap those faucets for money, I then would have got outside and started doing other things. And he and I are close today, but I call him the interior advocate, and I'm the exterior advocate.
And I'm thinking now, because one of my favorite books is authored by Sam Greenlee, The Spook That Sat by the Door.
Oh, absolutely.
So I had lunch with him before he passed in Chicago, so I liked it. Yo, man, he even told me to shut the hell up because I was talking too much.
Oh.
When the homeboy was there, he wanted to hear him talking. So he was like, why don't you shut the fuck up? I want to hear what he got to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
and who was the homeboy that was there?
oh, that's my man Juni from Chicago. We call him the imagination guru. So he teaches people how to visualize it, and then it manifests in the flesh.
The context of what y'all are talking about when we were walking in the door, when I was talking about making a point about black studies and how we need to make that a resource. We got brothers here, the brother in Winston-Salem State, they got 79 courses in black studies. And Winston-Salem State. That's what I said. And then I went to follow this brother head of the divinity school in which the black studies program comes up under, graduated from Virginia State. Okay, and you got these guys with all these resources, they got all these doctoral candidates that have to go out and bring back something. You know what I'm saying? I don't see why we can't have them working in our community. Well, that's the point I made to them when I wrote them an email. One of them responded, the other one, the guy who was self-state, is also head of a department at Howard.
Wow. So what you're saying is you have the resources, but you're not integrated with the community.
That's right. And we are the integrated.
We've been talking about that. Community development is the bridge to all of these brothers and sisters, whether they be returning from the justice system or whether they be, what they would think of themselves as priests and nuns. Wherever they are on the spectrum, we can be the bridge. And what we have to do with the academicians, and I don't mean this pejoratively, what we have to do with the academicians is say, what you're doing is great, but it's so limited.
That's right. But they had fallen in disfavor, and they're kicking them out, and they're disbanding them, and they're doing all, they need to be advocates for themselves, but we their backbone.
That's true.
The other B besides bridge is the bank. So we have our eyes set on not just becoming a certified CDC, but becoming a CDFI.
Sure.
Because I'd like for you as treasurer to cut me a nice little, piece of change. And now when these brothers come out and come through the program in 90 days, not only do you have an MVP ready to go to market that can be scaled, you also qualify. Trump just doubled the amount of money you can get from SBA.
And see, all of that part is systemic. It's systemic.
Well, see, I told James this morning, I'm about to do an application to become a CDE, a community development entity, which is the entity that can purvey new market tax credits. That's the.
Hold on, take it to a fifth grader now. Come on back down here. Y'all know what y'all talking about, but break it down one time for me, fifth grader.
All right, well, like you said, the Treasury has tax credits, and it does allocations to community development entities. And that's an organization that, proves that it has the market to move the tax credits, the ability to bring in projects to use the tax credits, and the ability to administer the tax credits. And once you do that application and you get designated as a new CDE, you're going to get a allocation probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 to $50 million in tax credits. Well, in cash, that equals out to about say $11 to $13 million in cash that can be put in projects through you. And you make fees in the neighborhood of say 7% of what gets allocated. So think about it, if you get a $35 million allocation and you're placing, say, $11 million in cash on projects, then you're going to make somewhere around $770,000 for doing that. So suppose you do that every year.
I'm in.
That's the way I'm trying to do it.
I'm in.
Yeah.
What kind of assistance?
I hadn't heard that.
What kind of
So that's what I
assistance?
meant when I said CDE.
Yeah, okay.
See, Bill Biden was a CDE.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hope Credit Union is a CDE. So no, I mean, I think the integration is, quite honestly, a bit of a cohort that allows us to do the individual things we're doing, but to cross-fertilize them with the expertise. So in other words, I know, I'm the audit chair of a CDFI and former president and CEO of a CDFI. So I help you with your CDFI application. You help me in terms of AI and the other platforms you're talking about with what I'm doing with CDE. And together, the concept of the CDC of Next Level is something that he and I partnered on, I don't know, how long ago was it?
It's been
25 years?
Yeah.
25 years ago. So in other words, and I'll say this, and I do have to run, but what I think we can do with our next meeting is we can decide, well, what are the actionable projects and what are the ways in which we partner and collaborate on those actionable projects, and then we make an accountable action list for each of us.
Yes,
We
sir.
share the list and we hold each other accountable to the task on the list, and we get some stuff done. And hopefully a year or so from now, we have some engines that are generating us some capital that we can work on. Because see, brothers like this, if you give us the capital base, and my business is as low as it's ever been in terms of capital in my life. I just have, like I was explaining to James, I have too much pipeline stuff that can't push out the pipeline. And it's bleeding me because I'm paying all this interest on the lines of credit. So I've got to get to the point that I have two things. The capital to move those, because see, once I move them out of the pipeline, they pay me well. Okay? And so I've got to have the capital to do that. But I've also got to develop enough. My consulting business used to support my development business. I'm now spending so much time doing development that I'm not consulting enough to keep current accounts. So I've got to develop what we used to call businesses while you sleep, who are generating enough capital for me to always have capital to run on. And it sounds like to me that each of you need the same thing.
And I go from September, I'm creating a business that can run without me. I'm the bottleneck, I've been the bottleneck, but I need money, I need to get my sleep money.
Well, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. And I think we understand how to do it, and I think we have the capacity to do it. It's just about focus. You've heard me say this before. Most of the most brilliant brothers I know are too busy making a living to get rich.
One more time for the people in the back, one more time, say it again for the people in the back.
Most of the most brilliant brothers I know are too busy making a living to get rich. And if they could just not have to do that making a living, they'd be rich. Because their quality of their thinking and their ability is there. But there's only so many hours in a day. And you know how brothers are. There's no question, I call it the me time. Now, I don't care if I'm on the road or I don't care if I'm at home. When my evening is over, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, that's why I don't sleep sometimes. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I gotta have me a couple of hours that's just me time. Because otherwise, why did I work so hard all of this day? Well, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm in a hotel in Chicago, and then it's 5 o'clock when I lay down and I gotta get up at 7, that becomes a 2-hour night. Now, when I was your age, I could do that. Now it takes me a little bit more time. And by the way, I have my own Chicago connection. We have a building on the corner of Lawrence and Sheridan in the Uptown community, and this is one of the pipeline pieces. I closed a $10 million TIF from the city of Chicago.
What's the TIF?
Tax increment financing. Where they basically take the future property tax proceeds from a block or 2 blocks or 3 blocks, and they do a bond, you get that money now, and then over time, the property tax pays it back. But you get, if they give it to you in a grant, you get to use that money. Well, see, my TIF in Chicago will allow the ICA Greenwise to pay me the fees that they've been owing me for years, which is $240,000.
We need that.
You kidding me?
We need that.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that you let us know ahead of time, because you came up on the elevator, but we're gonna walk you out and give you a tour on the way out of half of the operation, or
Sure.
the rest of the space.
Yeah.
So we came up the fast way.
No, I mean-
We're gonna take you around, so keep your head on the swivel.
No, I look forward to doing that because what you all are establishing is something powerful and smart. What I immediately thought, and I told James this, so I need a building like this in Henderson. Because the folks are there with the ideas, but there's no building in Henderson that's allowing people this kind of access for this level of money.
So we have something called a North Carolina, I'm talking about Spark. So you can go to these other locations in North Carolina, show my badge, and have access to a space just like this. And I'm about to look to see if one of them is close to Henderson.
It would be a community college if it was.
Partners and resources, so we have Durham, Greenville, South Carolina, Wilmington, Raleigh, Yanceyville, Staunton, Virginia, Charlotte, and Greensboro. So the closest one to you probably would be Yancey. None of those are close to Henderson.
Greenville would be the closest.
Greenville, South Carolina?
No, that's North Carolina. So you're talking Greenville, South Carolina.
Durham, North Carolina.
Well, it's only an hour, so yeah, I mean, that was 40 minutes, really.
Yes, yes.
But you see what I'm saying? I would want to learn from you how I could work through that entity to have one in Henderson. We've got the building, we just don't have the resources.
Is he joking?
Yeah, I'm not joking at all.
That's what we do. You wait a whole year to introduce me to your friends. Excuse me, we have to vent. You do this all the time. You keep people away from me. I supposed to see him last year. See,
Well, you gotta look at it like this, it's providential that it wasn't supposed to be until this year. So now we need to address, what was the reason that it was this year and not last year?
It's not been.
But this is great, man, look, this is fabulous, and I see exactly what you were saying when you described the young man. Yeah.
Hold on, what did he say? What did he say?
He said the nigga smart.
Okay.
And he's all, and the other thing he said, he's all up in this AI stuff. And no, it's very, very relevant. So, my whole trip down here was just supposed to happen. And I pay attention. And that's the thing that age has taught me. As a young man, I would go through stuff and experience it and lose 3/4 of it while I was ready to do what I was trying to do. Now, I'm in the opposite. I might lose 1/4 of it, but I'm retaining 3/4 of what needs to happen. And I'm making time, not just with my energy, but with those I can control, to do the things that are necessary to be done. This all is something that's necessary to be done.
That's right.
1948 or 52?
What?
Your birth year?
55.
November 13th.
November 15th.
November 15th. Roger that. That's all I needed to know.
And like I said, we're both Scorpions. My wife's a Scorpion. And see, my wife's Phi Beta Kappa in anthropology and history from Chapel Hill. And she's been very sick for 4 years. She's coming out of it now such that she needs something that can help her grab onto the intellectual side of her.
This would be her.
Well, I think some of the research will absolutely be her.
Yeah.
And I think some of the connection to the Black studies that you're talking about.
That's no personal crusade right there.
Would be her. And so, we gotta look at ways we can make this happen. Cause see, my library is,
You need to come over and see.
See,
This, I'm talking about this next level acupuncture medicine. Brand. I mean, put in the car, come on up here, let us see AMSU, you'll see for yourself, you'll be like, because all that can be, the blockages can be removed. I don't want to say it can be sped up, but we can move the blockages faster to get to her healing. That's where I'm at. So I'm Black Studies, history,
Look,
healing.
100%. But the thing that I saw, and like I said, we can go ahead and go. The thing that I saw is, when I look at my library and the connection to books since I left school, they're mostly books that came from her, and mostly books that she studied as she did both the history and the anthropology degree. And as I've been telling her, and she won national, competitions for writing and all of that. And I've been telling her, you've got to relate back to that stuff, and that's going to help you heal. And I think what she feels is she's not capable, and I'm trying to convince her, well, that you are. It's just that it has to replace those things that you are now doing that are productive.
The tech has caught up to her vision. You can still tell the same thing now. The tech has caught up to her vision.
I'm going to use that
The
phrase.
tech has caught up to the vision. She just ain't nobody who's ain't came and showed her on the 5th grade level.
I'm going to use that phrase. So now we're going to do exactly that.
He's riding with me, so I take it back to his car.
I'm walking around too.
Yeah, but I want to see what you were talking about